All right, part 2 of chapter 10, section 5. This covers circumference of a circle and then also how to find the arc lengths of circles. All right, so what is circumference? Around the circle. You can think of it as the perimeter of a circle. We actually already talked about these formulas way back in chapter 2, but the formula for circumference is either pi times the diameter, or 2 pi times the radius. The reason these both work is 2 times the radius is the same thing as the diameter. So you can use either one of those equations depending on the information you're given. So very quickly, what's the circumference of a circle with a radius of 5 feet? Well, we just do 2 times pi times 5 feet, which gives us 10 pi feet, or approximately 31.42 feet. All right, let's talk about arc length. So here we've got a circle, we've got this arc, right? A minor arc, AB. And let's say we want to know the length of this arc from A to B, not how many degrees it is, but how long it is in distance. Well, that's what we're doing when we talk about arc length. It's just a fraction of the circle's circumference. We're measuring the distance between 2 points on the arc of the circle. So how do we calculate that? Well, we have a formula, and it looks pretty similar to the formulas we just saw. Notice this 2 pi times the radius and pi times the diameter. Those are the formulas for circumference. And all we're really doing is just taking a fraction of that depending on how big the angle is. The bigger the angle is, the bigger the arc is. So if we had the whole circle, it would be 360 divided by 360, which would just be 1. And we would just be left with this right here. So depending on how big the arc is, that helps determine how long the arc length is. So let's find the measure from x to y. Well, let's look at our formula. We just want the measure of our arc divided by 360. And here we're going to use pi times the diameter because we're here given the diameter of 16 for the circle. So that diameter is 16. What is the measure of this arc? Well, it's just 90 degrees because we have a right angle here. And now we just want to simplify this. We've got 90 over 360 simplifies down to 1/4. 1/4 of 16 is 4 pi. So our arc length is 4 pi inches. And if we wanted to, we could put that in the calculator and get an approximate answer as a decimal. All right, let's look at one more. Let's find the length of this arc. And if you want to try this on your own, you can pause the video. Otherwise, you can just watch. So this time we've got a major arc. So the first thing we need to do is figure out what the measure of that major arc is. How do we do that? By doing 360 minus the 120, right? If this is arc here is 120, that leaves 240 for this major arc right here. So here we're going to use the same formula, but this time we're going to use 2 pi r instead of pi times that diameter because 15 is just a radius and not a diameter. We plug in what we know. We simplify things down. This is going to be 2/3 times 30 pi. 2/3 of 30 is 20. So we get 20 pi centimeters as our arc length.